The sheer amount of hype that followed Dragon Ball throughout the 2000s can't be understated.
Find out in the Kid Buu Saga, now available on home video and DVD.
This franchise is the first of its kind in the US, an anime that completely took over the nation, spawning toys, outfits, a movie we don't talk about,
Doing good.
and of course games. Multiple games year after year in fact. And my Dragon Ball obsessed self would get each and every one of them from my parents throughout the decade. To many, the big Dragon Ball game released every year would be a holiday tradition, as each holding company like Bandai and Atari made sure the marquee title of the year would drop just in time for the Christmas season. And I ate it up every year, regardless of how big the changes were versus the previous title.
I gobbled it up. It was so well done.
And thanks to me being spoiled and owning every console every generation, I was able to play every one that caught my fancy, which is just about all of them. So today, I want to take you on a trip down memory lane and look at every Dragon Ball game that dropped in the 2000s. Of course, thanks to me actually liking some of these more than others, some will be in greater details, so that's your warning. And if you like content like this, please consider liking and subscribing. I know this isn't my usual, but Dragon Ball has always been that 2000s holiday game for me, so I thought some of you would be the same. Now let's start Dragon Balls.
Good guys, bad guys, and absolutely no diplomatic solution. Dragon Ball Z Budokai, 23 characters, 5 fighting modes. Fight on. Available on PlayStation 2, rated T for teen.
In the West, it all began with Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku, released for the Game Boy Advance on May 14th, 2002. This was the start of the role-playing game series that ended up with Buu's Fury. Legacy of Goku allowed players to control Goku and play from the Saiyan Saga till the battle with Frieza, and it was pretty good for the first try at the formula. It plays kinda like a Legend of Zelda game, which might be an inspiration for the title as well. You explore different environments, solve puzzles, fight weird random enemies like normal humans, dinosaurs, crabs, and other enemies Goku didn't actually fight, alongside actual enemies he's supposed to fight like Nappa, Vegeta, and Frieza. I'll be real, as a kid I didn't like this game much, not because I didn't care for RPGs at the time, but because it was just dry. I hated the combat, which means I hated grinding levels, which means I hated exploring. It just wasn't for me when I could just go play Minish Cap or something. Following Legacy of Goku, we get the Dragon Ball Z collectible card game on May 29th, 2002, which is just a digital version of the physical Dragon Ball Z collectible card game that no one cared about back then. So you can guess what I thought of this game and if I actually played it. Exactly, I didn't, and I don't know anyone else who did. Anyways, this holiday season we saw the release of 2 Dragon Ball Z games. For the Game Boy Color, there was Dragon Ball Z Legendary Sonic Warriors, released on November 8th, 2002. This was a turn-based strategy game where players used in-game cards to act. It played out from the Saiyan arc to the end of Z, which was pretty cool for a game of this beginning era of Dragon Ball games in the West. This is actually the only game on the list that I haven't played at all, so I can't really say much on it. On consoles, we see the start of the best side of the Dragon Ball Z video game series in Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1, released on December 3rd, 2002. If you were around, you know this game changed the game. Budokai 1 was absolutely life-changing. This is a 3D fighting game that allows you to play as tons of characters from the Saiyan to Cell Saga, including a little Easter egg in Great Saiyan Man. And the story mode, man, it's still one of the best in the series. From the music to the awesome cutscenes that hold up even now, even with the hilarious ones in there.
I won't be beaten by a kid!
This game was everything and introduced many series staples that fans are still obsessed with now. Things like what-if plotlines including Cell absorbing Krillin.
Give me a break! You can't teach God to fight me all by himself!
Vegeta going Super Saiyan and Frieza winning. Tournament mode and Legacy of Hercule. Budokai 1 was a great first attempt that showed us all what a Dragon Ball Z game could be. It also scarred a lot of kids for life. I remember how big my eyes got at the amount of gore in that special beam cannon scene, and how much I struggled during the minigame before it. Bruh, let me tell you, spinning the stick here rivaled the N64 Mario Party 1 minigames. In 2003, I'm guessing someone realized what was working for the Dragon Ball series, cause we'd be greeted with the Legacy of Goku 2 for the Game Boy Advance on June 17th, 2003. This entry was an upgrade from its predecessor, including more playable characters which were Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, Vegeta, and Hercule, and continuing from where the last game left off, allowing players to experience the story from Frieza's defeat to the end of the Cell game saga. For the first time in the Legacy series, characters could transform and temporarily get stat boosts at the cost of their energy. You also could use a scouter to look at other characters' stats. Characters also gain access to charge melee attacks and the option to boost their stats with capsules you can find. Besides that, it was more of the same from the first game, just done better and a bit more entertaining. But listen, no one was talking about Legacy of Goku 2 in front of my Budokai 2, alright? Released in time to go on my Christmas list that year on December 4th, 2003. Budokai 2 was oddly the only game in the Budokai series I would never fully own. Yeah, I only played this one as a rental from Blockbuster and it was alright. Yeah, back when I was a kid, I remember being largely unimpressed by Budokai 2. Don't get me wrong, as a teen and adult on revisits, I loved it. The new story mode did away with cutscenes and retelling the same story for a pseudo board game style with fun what-if moments and character interactions during the missions. I eat this up nowadays, but as a kid I was like, where are my Buu Saga cutscenes? The gameplay was largely the same, but added and removed characters, added transformations, and added new mechanics like the fusion technique, which would introduce what-if fusions like Tiencha and different Majin Buu absorptions not seen in the source media. It will also add new ultimate moves, which upon use would start a versus minigame to determine the strength of the attack and if it hit at all. Overall, Budokai 2 was a solid second attempt, but not perfection just yet. On November 24, 2003, we see the first release of a Dragon Ball Z fighting game on a handheld with Dragon Ball Taiketsu on GBA. I played this one time and I'm telling you, you should never play it. It's ugly, it sucks, and you will only ever hear terrible things about it.
This game is terrible, just downright awful. This is not a good game. This is a bad game. I have played many video games better than this one. I would rather not play this game again.
What's crazy is that this sucker made crazy money, selling tons of copies and earning $14 million in 3 years thanks to the Dragon Ball name alone. Thankfully, handheld Dragon Ball fighting games will be redeemed with Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors released on June 22, 2004. This amazing handheld fighter, developed by none other than Arc System Works, the devs behind Guilty Gear, would be a first for Dragon Ball Z, in the fact that it was somewhat of a team-based fighter. Players could assemble a team of up to 3 characters to fight in arcade or challenge mode. The game also had a story mode, aka the arcade mode, with lots of what-if endings and local verses via link cable. Its roster spanned from the Frieza saga to the Buu saga, and its gameplay was pretty good, if not mashy for the time. This game was still hours for me as a kid. I finally had a handheld Dragon Ball game that I actually enjoyed. The Legacy of Goku series would meet its end with the Buu's Fury, released on September 14th, 2004. As the title implies, Buu's Fury adapts the entirety of the Buu saga and ends with the end of Z episode. This game added a lot more on top of what Legacy of Goku 2 already included, minus the charge attacks. In classic JRPG fashion, you can equip items and clothes to add stat boosts to characters, customize character builds more with the new stat point allocation system. We can also block and fuse now. This was the peak of the Legacy of Goku series and honestly the only one I actually enjoyed playing and beating entirely. Though that final battle with Kid Buu was actual hell. I mean, it took me forever to finish that fight. I like to think of this series as the spiritual predecessor of the new Kakarot game, due to the similarities of the two. So to me, this series isn't truly dead, just modernized. Another Dragon Ball series would very technically, meet its end with Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, released on November 16th, 2004. Budokai 3 would add tons of new mechanics, becoming easily the best in the trilogy from a gameplay standpoint. Ki, beam struggles, transformations, dodging, pursuits, taunts, hyper mode, dragon rush, flight, all of these new systems were either added or changed, and it's all for the better. Combat is at its best here, and it instantly became the Dragon Ball game you hooked up when you just wanted to make your favorite characters fight. The story mode also had way more polish than Budokai 2's. My dad never understood why I kept buying the same game every year, but when I showed him you could fly around the world in this one, even he thought it was cool. I fell in love with the light RPG elements of getting into battles to level my characters up, find the Dragon Balls and collect random items. Budokai 3 changed the mode, including not only elements from the Saiyan Saga through the end of Z, but also the films in Dragon Ball GT. This blew our minds back in the day. This was the first game in the series to get rave reviews from just about everyone, and it was well deserved. Not to mention a great game to look at. Of course, Dragon Ball couldn't help but drop the ball after making that godlike game. Dragon Ball Z Sagas would release on March 22nd, 2005. The game starts with a beautifully animated cutscene and drops you into the ugliest glob of polygons you've seen since the N64.
Fuck it, we have to go. Oh my god.
This was supposed to be Dragon Ball's venture into the 3D free roam beat 'em up territory, and it was god awful. The combat was bad, graphics were bad, stages were bad, even the dialogue was bad. Did anyone else have an inside joke with whoever they played this game with, where they would randomly just say,
Goku! Bardock!
and
Broly!
I remember when we unlocked level replay with free character select and realized that everyone did extra low damage unless they went Super Saiyan. Like, why would you do that, and why would you make Broly the only character worth using because of it? Horrible game, and I can't believe I played it all the way through as a kid.
Kamehameha! 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 Yatta! Kamehameha! Kamehameha!
We would get the first and only Dragon Ball GT game in Dragon Ball GT Transformation for the GBA on August 9th of 2005. I remember renting this 2D beat 'em up and it was just okay. Like, there was nothing memorable about this game other than it being just a straight up GT game. And it's a classic beat 'em up like Streets of Rage, but drier. The only thing I remember is the battle with Giant Ape Baby as Super Saiyan 4 Goku. But on October 18th, 2005, Dragon Ball games would change forever once more with the release of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. I remember playing this for the first time and oh my god. A Dragon Ball game that looks like how they actually fight in Dragon Ball. All the flying, destruction, huge stages, it was insane. Instead of 2D like Budokai, Tenkaichi is a third-person fighter and plays more like a 3D version of Supersonic Warriors. But it also brings a lot of gameplay philosophies and mechanics from Budokai over. Vanishing, key management, and key special moves are all here. But this game adds things like max power mode, known as sparking now. And special moves are a lot different in application as well. Tenkaichi came out the gate swinging with 64 characters and 10 stages available. But I do remember as a kid not liking it nearly as much as Budokai 3. Tenkaichi 1 felt stiff and a bit soulless because of ugly UI, and I hated that you couldn't transform mid-match. Thankfully, this was just the beginning and things would only get better from here. Not counting that recent bomb they dropped, because that was trash. I don't care what anyone y'all say. That was trash. Pretty soon the DS was in, and so it was decided that we get the second and last Supersonic Warriors game in Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors 2 on November 20th, 2005. The game was basically the same as the first but with 2 extra characters in Cooler, my GOAT, and Broly. It also added support assists that would throw out special moves or even revive you in matches. The story mode also added pathways that could lead to what if scenarios, which I loved. Listen, if there was some what if content that could be smoothly reached just by playing the game and doing something a little different, Dragon Ball Z fans are all over that. Every other handheld Dragon Ball game was put on notice when one of my favorite Dragon Ball games and probably one of my most played games ever, Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai, dropped on March 7th, 2006. This was a handheld spin-off of the Budokai series and thus carried a lot of the best elements from Budokai 3. The story mode was a what-if retelling of Fusion Reborn that turned the little movie into the most epic Dragon Ball story ever told. You play as darn near every hero throughout it, and man, things get wild. Like when Vegeta absorbs a spirit bomb to defeat Janemba, or when Goku and Vegeta fuse into Vegito for good to beat him instead. The game was so awesome, and being on a PSP meant that I was playing it everywhere I went. And when I wasn't playing story, arcade, or survival mode, I was putting stickers and crap on my profile card. While Japan got it in November of 2004, we get Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure on June 6, 2006. This was the first time in a long time a game released on one of the original arcs of Dragon Ball, and I won't lie, I never beat this one. But I did play it a lot and it was a banger. This wasn't a fighting game like most of what we got in the recent years, but a new side-scrolling beat-em-up with the Dragon Ball twist. You play as Goku and later Krillin after you unlock him, and play from the start of Dragon Ball to the fight with King Piccolo. Throughout the game, you play through stages featuring platforming, flying, and boss battles, along with the beating up, while collecting items that increase health and ki, adding a kind of RPG element to the game. Super Dragon Ball Z is another game we get after its Japanese release with the summer release of July 18th, 2006 in America. This was and still is my personal favorite Dragon Ball fighting game from both a gameplay and aesthetic point. This was the first modern Dragon Ball Z game that really wore its manga inspiration on its sleeves, having a cel-shaded graphical style that truly emulated the pages of the book series it was based on. And the gameplay, I expected no less from a collaboration of Arika, the devs behind Street Fighter EX, and a Street Fighter and Darkstalkers producer, but the gameplay still blows me away. Super Dragon Ball Z is a unique experience that puts players in a 3D arena where they can fly, dash, run, and a lot more. Sort of mixing elements from Tenkaichi, Budokai, and grounding them with more traditional fighting game features like motion inputs, strength-based normal attacks, super moves, juggles, and all the stuff you expect to see in standard fighters like Street Fighter and King of Fighters. However, like standard fighters, the game didn't have much in terms of modes aside from survival, arcade, and training. So I didn't go too crazy on it when I first got it as a kid. But when I got proficient in fighting games and actually learned to combo, customize, and play neutral, this game became straight magic. I even had the pleasure of playing it on my last trip to Japan in arcades. But once again, the Tenkaichi series was ready to take over for the holiday season. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, what a mouthful, would hit US shelves on November 7, 2006, this time for both the PS2 and the Wii. I'll save the Wii stuff for the next Tenkaichi because this time around I would be sticking to the PS2 port. Anyways, this is the game when the Tenkaichi series would hit its stride and become the best Dragon Ball video game adaptation to fans everywhere. If you were there, you know how much better this game was than Dry Eye's Tenkaichi 1. Tenkaichi 2 would release with 100 characters including 36 forms for the characters. And yes, this time your characters could actually transform mid-match to their transformations. The story mode will also see an upgrade, taking inspiration from Budokai 3, allowing players to fly around Earth and Namek to find skill upgrades, opponents, and the Dragon Balls. It goes from Z to GT and includes stories from films, TV specials, and of course what ifs. But my favorite feature here is the fact that you can alter the story by just playing the game differently. Like, instead of having Goku come back and beat Nappa, you can just leave Gohan in to do it and get an alternate ending. I love stuff like that. Other than that, there was the standard versus modes, tournament modes, but Ultimate Battle Z would be the real time waster. You go up pillars of fights with different themes like Survive the Androids and stuff like that. Kinda inspired by the Mortal Kombat games. This game legit changed lives, and I know everyone that played can vividly see that glacier in their mind to this day. Now we go back to the PSP with the final Shin Budokai entry, Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai Another Road, released on March 20th, 2007. This was a birthday game for me since it dropped on my birthday month, and once again it took up days of my life. If I wasn't home to play Tenkaichi 2, I was out playing this game. The game is no different mechanically from Shin Budokai 1, but introduces more characters. The big draw here is a strategy RPG-like story mode. Every chapter takes place in a new stage, and you get a team of a few fighters that must go to different areas and defeat different enemies. The story is the sequel to the Trunks saga, with the future Buu saga taking shape, with a ton of different twists and extra crap happening like future Cooler's invasion during the Buu saga, warriors from the mainline Dragon Ball Z universe coming to help, and other stuff like that. Nothing insane, but still a good entry and a fun send-off to a great little series. Dragon Ball Z Harukanaru Densetsu, nice. Released on June 5th, 2007, and is a car RPG and one of the Dragon Ball Z games I didn't play too much of. It's a continuation of the Densetsu card-based Dragon Ball games and is even said to mix story elements from the first 3 Dragon Ball Z NES games. You play as Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, and Vegeta and take on missions on a board game-like map with various objectives, which always include winning battles. The card system is pretty fun, as you not only need stronger attack power cards to take on fights, but can combo card effects. This is definitely one I should revisit and recommend trying if you haven't. But well, here we are once again. The game we thought was the ending to the Tenkaichi series, that's actually still the best in the series. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 dropped for the Wii and PS2 on November 13th, 2007. If you want to talk playtime, bruh, for me it's this game, Shin Budokai, Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Tenkaichi 3 looked at 2 and said, "You want more? Hold up, watch this." My goodness, I know people look at the characters as reskins and stuff on here, which honestly they aren't if you learn how the battle system works. But bruh, we had 162 characters dropped in this game. Almost the most in any fighting game ever, and we had straight up crazy additions like my GOAT Arali, Future Gohan, Devilman, not that one, Android 8, Nail, early Piccolo, different eras of Goku. I know some of these sound like whatever, but bruh, they were awesome. I love that early Goku and Piccolo moveset. And how can you not love Future Gohan? Be for real. I don't care about the power levels, be for real. Not only that, but we got all new mechanics to make battles feel more complete and competitive, like Z Burst Dash and Sonic Sway, and a day-night system so characters can go grade 8. We'd also see the return of story mode, but lacking the map, but to make up for it, we got extra fights and extra what-if scenarios to reach in battle that were actually programmed in this time. I know a lot of you loved Roshi being the one to defeat Broly here. Along with story and the different tournament modes, we get an expansion of Ultimate Battle, which would be my favorite. Survival mode, Mission 100, which are battles with different conditions and scenarios, and the RPG-like mode taken straight from Soul Calibur 2, Sim Dragon, where you can pick a fighter and do different things like boost stats, get items, and take on stronger fighters. The Wii also had exclusive online battle mode, but its netcode was trash anyway, so there wasn't much fun to be had anyway because you were just watching a PowerPoint presentation. But it was awesome doing the actual fireball motions on the Wii with the Wii mode to actually do Kamehameha in the game. That was freaking sick. Now, when I first saw that trailer for Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit, the first Dragon Ball Z game for the PS3 and 360 released on June 10, 2008, I think I had an out-of-body experience. We just entered the new generation of consoles, and this game dropped one of the most perfect trailers of all time and had everyone hyped. Burst Limit was a return to the Budokai formula, with a few additions to make fights more cinematic, dramatic, and balanced. There's now a fatigue meter like in Street Fighter where if you block enough, you get stunned for a bit. There are also cutscenes that you can set off in the middle of battles to use in different ways that you can equip, like another character jumping in to sacrifice themselves in order for you to not take an ultimate attack to the face. While they could stop the action, I thought this jump was kinda sick. In fact, this went double for support characters, as you could choose a character to be your assist, and sometimes cutscenes will jump in with them deflecting Ki Blast or attacking the opponent for you. What really made me realize this game was just a Budokai 1 remake was the story mode, Z Chronicles, which basically followed Budokai 1 bar for bar, including ending on the Cell Saga. Like, what? I was so mad at this as a kid, like why are we only going 75% of the way in a Dragon Ball game in the year of 2008 after the others have started covering GT and all that? And speaking of that, the game had only like 5 stages, like that's just unacceptable, bro. Anyways, the game would have the usual other modes, minus tournament mode for some reason. But for the first time, online mode was actually playable and enjoyable. I didn't play it because I was a screw up back then, but it was there. This was the era when Dragon Ball fighters were dormant on Nintendo systems, but for some reason Dragon Ball games similar to Advanced Adventure would continue getting added to them, and I wasn't complaining. Dragon Ball Origins hit the Nintendo DS on November 4th of 2008 and took a lot of inspiration from its GBA spiritual predecessor. Going through the first 2 Dragon Ball arcs, Pilaf and the Tournament Sagas, players control Goku in an overhead adventure similar to the classic Zelda games but controlled with the stylus. This is an action-adventure pseudo-RPG, again like the Zelda games, where you explore stages, solve puzzles, master defeat enemies, and collect stuff while leveling up to beat the game. It was great but somewhat repetitive at times, but I especially was blown away by the visuals. It looked just like the manga. The Dragon Ball series would have one last hurrah for the PS2 with Infinite World, released on December 4th, 2008. When this was revealed as a thing, I was astounded as a kid. Like, a PS2 game in 2008? Right after Boruto Rimito? It's more likely than you think. Infinite World doesn't do much new for the Budokai series and is basically a love letter best of game to finish it out. Many even consider it as a Budokai 3.5 as it reuses its engine with a few changes. Many games are added to the story mode. There's a new skill system, a dash attack, a second throw, new costumes, new special move, new combos. It just adds a bunch while removing tournament mode for some reason. Honestly, not much to say here. I did get it, but I wasn't impressed as a kid, besides with the mini games that kinda added to the overall Dragon Ball feel of the game. I guess the Shin Budokai series deserved a real send-off too, huh? But no one expected that it come in the form of Dragon Ball Evolution for the PSP, released on August 8th, 2009. Yeah, that April release might have been a late April Fool's joke, but the joke might have ended up being not the game, but the fact that it was good. While the movie of the same name released the following year was anything but, Evolution on the PSP was a very competent entry of the series. Basically just reusing the Shin Budokai mechanics and engine, but with uglier versions of the characters we love. Thankfully the cast is a lot better too. If you ever wanted to hear Spider-Man, Ben 10 or Sasuke as Goku and Sakura Tails or Scarlet Witch as Bulma, then play this. The Wii would get another go at the Dragon Ball series with Revenge of King Piccolo, a beat-em-up platformer released on October 20th, 2009. Like other games of the genre, you just go left to right and beat up guys till you finish the level. Unlike the other Dragon Ball games, this one was just okay at best and felt like a game for kids. I mean, I know it's Dragon Ball, I know it's for kids, but this game really felt for kids. Like my first beat-em-up kids. It's super simple and can get really repetitive, but it's worth a playthrough. The company behind Xenosaga and Xenoblade Chronicles, Monolith Soft, would try their hand at a Dragon Ball game for the DS and Attack of the Saiyans, released on November 10th, 2009. This game was actually pretty fire, taking the series back into the world of turn-based RPGs and through the Piccolo Jr. and Saiyan sagas, ending with the fight against Vegeta. Players could take control of Goku, Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien. I have no clue why no one decided to get quirky and throw in Bulma, Chi-Chi, or Roshi, because that could make for some fun moments. And play through a relatively standard but enjoyable RPG adventure, exploring different maps, leveling up, and defeating different enemies. Combat is where the game tries to find a bit more personality, limiting the team to 3 active members that can be swapped out at any moment. The main mechanic is the Rage Gauge, which could be filled in battle, and once maxed out allows characters to go into a max mode, which allows them to access a sparking combo, which is basically a limit break super move. This game is honestly a must play for fans of the franchise. The final Dragon Ball game released in the 2000s, and one of the last ones I was truly hyped for, was Dragon Ball Z Raging Blast. Released on November 10th, 2009, Raging Blast was the successor to the Tenkaichi series on new gen consoles, similar to Burst Limit for Budokai. To start, I have to just say I love Raging Blast 1's soft cell shaded visuals. Why can I not say that? Soft cell shaded visuals.
Damn!
I love how matte everything looks. It reminds me a lot of the manga and really amplifies the glows that the auras put on everything. Like you'd think, this game brings a lot of elements back from Tenkaichi, such as environmental destruction and battle damage. On the new front, 2 characters can use specials together, use the environments to do damage like knocking enemies into walls and keeping them there for extra attacks like Vegeta did in the Majin Buu saga. And environments are also more detailed in their destruction. The story mode takes a form similar to Tenkaichi 3, where players select different levels going from the Saiyan saga to the Kid Buu saga, along with some what ifs. Of course, that means there are less characters, but they added Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Broly because that was all the hype back then, so that's okay, right? Raging Blast was an alright game and got some alright reception, with many saying there were just too many issues in this shallow game to have it stand up to the past fighting games in the franchise. I enjoyed my time with it, but I didn't care for the story mode and another step back to just 3 base Z sagas in the story. It wasn't the best end to the Z franchise's 2000s video game run, but at least we had more come to oh god, oh my god, no. Oh brother.